If you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do, all these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hey guys, and welcome to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Cynthia. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope you all are having a fabulous day, a fabulous week since the last time I've talked to you all. I've been having a fabulous day. I had a really awesome lower body workout with my brother. It's always so much fun working out with a friend or somebody who kind of pushes you or is at the same fitness level as you. So I don't feel, held back by what we're doing since we're both kind of at the same level. And, he'll ask me a couple questions about form, and it's just really nice to work out with somebody. Once you find that ideal workout partner, it's just unbeatable. Like, you want to take classes with them, and that's how it is with my brother. So we had a really good workout, lower body workout, and that's basically it. I taught a few classes this morning, and right before I started, getting prepared for this episode, oh my God, and I still have it. Anyway, I look down on my thighs and I see something dark, and for a split second I thought it was blood. So I was like, I started freaking out, me and my boss, because she saw that on my thigh too. And I was like, wait, what is it? And I rubbed it, and instantly I knew. I'm like, oh my God, it's smeared chocolate. I had smeared chocolate all over these brand new biker shorts I'm wearing right now. They're like a mauve color. I just did laundry, just washed these, and immediately I have half of my thighs covered in chocolate. And oh my God, I feel like everyone in their life at one point has been covered in chocolate. I mean, who hasn't? Literally, just like random chocolate smears on you. That is me right now. It is on my thighs. Right now, I just saw chocolate smeared on the palm of my hand. It's on my laptop. And I know it was from a couple days ago. I had a protein cookie in there, and I think crumbs fell in there because I ate the cookie and I left the wrapper in my backpack. So I'm guessing the crumbs that were inside the wrap and like the leftover chocolate was what got smeared all over my things in my backpack. So now I'm like utterly annoyed because I hate walking around in dirty clothes or stained clothes. Like, I feel very self-conscious. Like, I feel like now and I have to go to Target right after I'm done recording this episode, and I feel that everyone's going to be staring at my thigh, but whatever, I'm wearing a mask, people aren't going to be able to tell who I am anyway. But besides all that, besides the chocolate being smeared on my laptop, on my hand, on my thigh, everything is Gucci over here. I'm blessed to see another day. No complaints. So let's get down to what we're really here to discuss. Oh my God, I'm going to tell you guys why I found it so vital for me to address this at the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Things you didn't know about water. For the last few days or so, I have embarked on this new Netflix show, and it's called Down to Earth, and it's Zac Efron's documentary. So basically, each episode, it's about a 30 to 40-ish minute episode, each episode. And in each episode, they travel, Zac Efron and this health guru, they travel different countries all over the globe and just, talk to the health experts in those areas and seeing how they are becoming more green. How are they, what steps are they taking to living a more sustainable lifestyle? Things like, why is this country living longer than other people, like in the U.S. and so forth? And it's really interesting. I highly recommend this documentary. The very first episode I watched, I think they're in Iceland. And my sister and I were kind of watching it as like background noise, you have that show where like you kind of just play it just to have some background noise. We weren't really paying attention. But then I decided to rewatch that episode, and they talked about in that episode how Iceland is really called like Greenland because they're so green. They don't like to waste food. They have this incredibly awesome process of saving energy, and like it's just honestly, it blows me away. And that's how I got hooked. And I think it was by the third episode, Zac Efron and this health guru, they traveled to Paris to see what they're doing over there in terms of water conservation. And I literally was blown away by the concept of water. I feel like this is something we don't really think about. We don't really think about how our water is, quote, air quote, purified, or like how does our water become clean? What is that process like? What does that do to our environment? We tend to think a lot about where our food comes from, right? But why don't we ask ourselves the same question about water? And that is exactly what this episode tackled. Zac Efron and Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick was a special guest in this episode. Their minds were completely blown by a water sommelier in the Down to Earth episode. And it's a real thing, you guys. So just how there's, people who are like beer specialists, wine specialists, tequila specialists, there's also people who specialize in water, which I've never heard of in my life. And it was just such an interesting, like immediately I was hooked. So it wasn't the third episode of the travel show. It was the second episode in Down to Earth about water. Zac Efron kicks things off in LA with a tasting session from a water sommelier. And again, a water sommelier is just somebody who is basically an expert in water and different types of water. And he was joined by his friend Anna Kendrick. And like I said, both of their minds were promptly blown by the expansive world of water, as was mine when I was watching that episode. Like literally my jaw was like open the whole time, because I'm like, how have they been hiding this information from us for so long? Why has no one ever told me the true significance of purified water and, just all of these different things? So this episode is what really got me triggered. Okay. I was deeply triggered by this episode. And in the opening sequence of this specific episode, they go to this French restaurant in LA, and the water sommelier is like showing them different types of water, and, there's different flavors. And in a nutshell, my biggest takeaway from the water sommelier is that anything, when you go to the grocery store, you go to a gas station, whenever you are buying bottled water, anything that says purified water, all that really is boiled tap water. You heard it right. Purified water. Anything that claims it's so pure, it's just really boiled tap water with no real, minerals or vitamins that our body needs. And the water sommelier in this episode said that drinking that purified water can actually do more damage than good. And especially if you drink it, long term. And if you notice, when you go to the store, the purified water is always cheaper than the spring water or the aquifer water. So that was the biggest thing that blew my mind away. He literally said the purified water is the worst thing on this planet. The worst. And both Zac Efron and Anna Kendrick were like, I am so, like, my mind is blown away. Because this is something we don't think about. And water is something that, we're told that it's supposed to, we are made of 70% water, our bodies, and we're supposed to be drinking like a gallon a day. Doctors recommend it, your trainer recommends it, your nutritionist recommends it. And, water is supposed to have all of these amazing health benefits, but the kind of water you drink makes a vital impact in, again, whether you provide your body with the minerals or not. So that's what we're going to be really dissecting in today's episode is, purified water versus spring water and everything in between. So definitely stick around. This is going to be a very interesting topic. Hopefully your mind is blown away already as mine is. Just the whole purified water concept angers me because my family, we bought because I told my mom I do not buy purified water anymore. But we were buying purified water, thinking it's clean water. It's in a bottle. It's sold in American soil in American stores. Hello? Labels are such a scam, y'all. We really got to do our research about everything. Everything. Anything that you put in your body, we have to do research. So we're going to come to a very brief break right now. When we come back, more on purified water versus spring water.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. So we are continuing along the conversation of purified water versus spring water, and I was actually able to find the name of the water sommelier in the episode with Zac Efron, and his name is Martin Rees. And he actually does have a very strong social media presence in which he is very vocal about people staying away from purified water. And purified water, he claims, is created by a factory, whereas spring water is created by nature. And purified water is very low in minerals and electrolytes, which your body needs. And spring water is very high in minerals and electrolytes, everything our body needs. And some of these purified water labels, brands that you may drink are Smart Water, Dasani, Essential, and Aquafina. And then the spring water, things created by nature, are going to be things like Arrowhead, the Miss Bougie Fiji water, Evian. Okay, those are spring water that created by nature. And we have an important takeaway from all this, y'all. If you think different waters taste different, you're probably right. And Those different tastes are likely because different waters are having different impacts on your body. And when you see some fancier waters in whatever store you're picking up lunch or groceries or whatever, it might be a good idea to take a look at the label and remember this podcast episode, because like I said, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of purified water versus spring water. By now, most Americans are relatively aware of the fact that plain tap water isn't exactly great for us, right? This isn't just the case in communities like Flint, Michigan, that have experienced a serious catastrophe when it comes to local water conditions. And it's honestly so, it's so just not right that Flint, Michigan to this day still doesn't have clean water. It just doesn't make sense to me. How here in the U.S. we have a city that does not have clean water? It doesn't make sense to me. Water is natural. Water is from the earth. Water is nature. And it shouldn't be monetized, in my opinion. I'm going to be straight up. Water should not be monetized. Everybody on this planet should have access, free access to clean water every day. And that's my stance, and that's what I firmly believe in. Anyway, let's continue on. Even in cities where the water is considered clean and 100% safe to drink, tap water can and often does contain toxic substances like arsenic, mercury, fluoride, and so many other things. That said, it's not surprising that more people than ever are making the switch to bottled water instead. The most popular choices are spring water and purified water, but I want to dissect which one of the better choice than the other. Most important of all, are there other solutions to consider that might be better than either of those? So we're going to take a closer look in some of these questions. So the first one is, what is purified water? Before a given bottled water can be marketed and sold as purified water, overall impurity levels need to be reduced to 10 parts per million or less. And contrary to popular belief, purified water is not the same thing as filtered water, okay? All water is subjected to some form of filtration before distribution, plain tap water included. Purified water, on the other hand, is also treated to remove additional substances like pathogens and chemicals. That said, you can rest easy in the knowledge that any commercial purified water meets significantly stricter EPA purity standards than those applied to standard drinking water, tap water included. However, consumers should be aware that because of these strict standards, purified water may come from almost any source, up to and including springs or existing tap water systems. Now, let's discuss what is spring water. Spring water is commonly referred to by several different names, including well water, groundwater, and artisan water. It is formally defined by the EPA as water that originates from an underground aquifer. Other variables attached to your standard bottle of spring water may vary. Spring water may or may not be accessed via a well. It also may or may not undergo additional treatment before distribution. However, spring water is always collected at the point where it flows or otherwise arrives at the surface of the structure in which it resides. Those who prefer spring water consider the natural filtration process to be preferable to the alternatives. I'm the alternatives. Spring water is also often richer in beneficial natural minerals than other types of water. Even so, it's important to realize that while spring water is required to meet basic EPA purity standards, there are fewer guarantees in place as to the quality of the water itself. So what type of water should you be drinking? Okay, we just dove into purified versus spring. Which one should you be drinking? Both purified water and bottled spring water are considered safe to drink according to the EPA. Both are probably going to be several cuts above water you get straight from the tap. That said, which is the best option between the two is mostly a matter of personal preference, availability, and convenience. Those who prefer spring water often do so because they like that it contains natural minerals. Not only does that make the water more healthful than it otherwise might be, but many think minerals improve flavor as well. On the other hand, those who prefer purified water really like the strict standards imposed on the quality of what they're drinking. Purified water is also often cheaper and more readily available than spring water. Even so, there's an option that trumps any kind of bottled water, including spring and purified, which is home filtered water. What bottled water companies don't want you to know is that the bottle themselves contain hazardous chemicals that can leach their way into the water they contain. Such chemicals have been linked to serious health conditions like cancer, hormonal balance, and more. And this is actually one of the biggest key points in that episode with Zac Efron, Down to Earth, that caught my attention as well. While they were in Paris and they were talking to the lady in charge of basically providing and distributing clean water throughout all of Paris, she even said that she thinks that bottled waters is the dumbest thing that was ever invented for this exact reason. The bottled waters themselves contain all of these hazardous chemicals that really cancel out the clean water. And you're really just like, again, creating more damage than good for your body. By investing in a reverse osmosis filter or another high-performance water filter for your home, you can enjoy continuous access to water that's every bit as clean, delicious, and good for you as even the purest bottled alternative. However, you'll get to do so without worrying about exposure to additional chemicals associated with plastic commercial bottles. Since the filters are installed right there at the point of access, they're super convenient as well. Plus, filtered water is a lot easier on your pocketbook over the long haul. So definitely explore those possibilities today. I know me and my family, we have been exploring those possibilities as well. And that will just help, the planet reduce our plastic bottle consumption because we definitely have an issue with that. So you guys, I'm going to cut into a very brief break right now. And when we come back, more about water.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. So we just got done talking about the difference between purified water versus spring water and which one is better for you. So essentially, you guys, in my opinion, after watching Zac Efron's episode about water and then, doing my own research, I would prefer spring water over purified water. The whole fact that there's basically purified water is getting stripped of all of the vital minerals that our body needs just doesn't sit well with me. So spring water it is for me. I'm going to come back after, I'm coming after that Fiji water, that bougie water. But what trumps both of those is, installing an in-filter water filtration in your house. And again, that's going to be the cleanest way to attain your water. And it's going to be better for the planet, less plastic waste. So now we're still going to be talking about water. We're still going to be talking about things you probably didn't know regarding water. But in this segment, we're going to be hitting the water in you and me. Water and the human body. We all know that water is indeed essential for all life on, in, and above the earth. And this is important to you because you are made up mostly of water. Like me, I am, like we said, we are made mostly of water, and I am a Cancer. So, we are in touch with the water. That's what they say. We are water signs. We're ruled by the moon. That's why when they say a lot of times that Cancers and like Pisces and Scorpio, because they're all water signs, we're really in touch with, we love water. We love beaches and things like that because it's our signs and literally our bodies are made of it. So think of what you need to survive. Really just survive, okay? Is it just food, water, air, social media? Naturally, you guys, I'm going to concentrate on water here, all right? Water is of major importance to all living things. In some organisms, up to 90% of their body weight comes from water. And up to 60% of the human adult body is water. According to H. Mitchell, Journal of Biological Chemistry 158, the brain and heart are composed of 73% water, and the lungs are about 83% water. I did not know this. The skin contains 64% water. Muscles and kidneys are 79% water. And even the bones are watery, you guys. 31%. Bones aren't as watery as, our brain or our lungs. But bones are watery. I did not know that. Like, I thought bone is like, a bone, like a dog bone. Like, it's hard. Like, you cut it open and it's just more bone. It's hard. So the fact that it's watery, how does that blow your guys' minds away? What? Each day, humans must consume a certain amount of water to survive. Of course, this varies according to age and gender, and also by where someone lives. Generally, an adult male needs about 3 liters per day, while an adult female needs about 2.2 liters per day. All of the water a person needs does not have to come from drinking liquids, as some of this water is contained in the food we eat already. So water serves a number of essential functions, to keep us going. So what does water do for us? As we know, it's a vital nutrient to the life of every cell, acts first as a building material. It regulates our internal body temperature by sweating and respiration. And girl, I know it does because I be sweating up a storm, okay? I don't know why I sweat so much. Like, I can literally be walking outside from my front door to my car and start sweating in the back of my neck. Like, I don't understand it. I really don't. I hate that I sweat so much. The carbohydrates and proteins that our bodies use as food are metabolized and transported by water in the bloodstream. It assists in flushing waste mainly through urination. It acts as a shock absorber for brain, spinal cord, and fetus. It forms saliva and lubricates joints. But that's not all, y'all. We got so much more. Water does so much for us. It also helps deliver oxygen all over the body. It helps convert food to components needed for survival, aka digestion. It's needed by the brain to manufacture hormones and neurotransmitters. It keeps mucosal membranes moist. So your mocos, your boogers, yeah, water does that. And again, water is the major component of most body parts, okay? It's just like, it's literally, we cannot live without water. Literally, okay? And according to Dr. Jeffrey Utz, neuroscience, pediatrics, Allegheny University, different people have different percentages of their bodies made up of water. Babies, I didn't know this, you guys, but babies have the most water in them. They're born with about 78% of their bodies being water. So they're like so mushy, I feel like. They're so watery and mushy, these babies. I feel like the next time I hold a baby, I'm going to like shake them up and see if I hear water. No, I'm kidding. Totally kidding. Please, parents, do not come for me. I will not shake a baby, okay? I know that's literally not okay. That was a joke. Haha. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, babies have the most, being born at about 78% water. By 1 year of age, that amount drops to about 65%. So it drops significantly throughout 1 year, their first year of life. In adult men, about 60% of their bodies are water. However, fat tissue does not have as much water as lean tissue. And in adult women, fat makes up more of the body than men. So they have about 55% of their bodies made up of water. So, babies and kids have more water as a percentage than adults. Women have less water than men as a percentage. And people with more fatty tissue have less water than people with less fatty tissue as a percentage, okay? So, quite simply, there just wouldn't be any of you, me, our dog, nothing, without the existence of an ample liquid water supply on Earth. And the unique qualities and properties of water are what make it so important and basic to life. The cells in our bodies are full of water. You know, the excellent ability of water to dissolve so many substances allows our cells to use valuable nutrients, minerals, and chemicals in biological processes. Water stickiness from surface tension plays a part in our body's ability to transport these materials all through ourselves. The carbohydrates and proteins that our bodies use as food are metabolized and transported by water in the bloodstream. No less important is the ability of water to transport waste mineral out of our bodies. So, you guys, that's going to wrap up this part of the segment. We're going to cut into a very brief break right now. And when we come back, we're going to be hitting another really interesting point about water. How much water is there on Earth?
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. So I hope you guys are like juiced about everything, all the cool points that we're hitting in today's episode about water, you know, the most essential thing that's needed for survival for every single living creature and organism on, in, above, underneath, and through this planet, right? So there's a lot of creatures, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of creatures and people and things that need water in order to survive on a daily basis. So, how much water is there on Earth? That's a pretty, important question. With everyone needing supply, how much water is there? All Earth's water, liquid fresh water, and water in lakes and rivers. That's what we're going to be taking in part, okay? And the Earth is a very watery place. But just how much water exists on, in, and above our planet? So about 71% of the Earth's surface is water covered, and the oceans hold about 96.5% of all Earth's water. I mean, this is pretty, I'm not going to say self-explanatory because maybe not everybody has access to a map. But if you've ever seen, a globe or a picture of the world, the map, planet Earth, then you can visually see that the majority of the Earth is covered in blue by water. So 70% of the Earth's surface is water. And the oceans hold the most water, 96.5% of the Earth's water. And I think that's why I'm low-key scared of oceans, like going inside and really swimming. I used to all the time when I lived in Santa Barbara. Like, I was literally like a freaking mermaid. I was in there swimming, like really diving in deep in the water until, I started seeing like scientists go out and see and like all these crazy, creepy underwater creatures start popping up. I think they say that 90% of the ocean is undiscovered. Scientists have only discovered 10% of the water, okay, of the oceans. And that like freaks me out that we only know 10%. Like there's so much we don't know and it's just so creepy. I know some of you can feel me on this concept about water. But anyway, water also exists in the air as water vapor, in rivers and lakes, in ice caps and glaciers, in the ground as soil moisture, and in aquifers, and even in you and your dog, okay? Water is never sitting still. And thanks to the water cycle, our planet's water supply is constantly moving from one place to another and from one form to another. So things would get pretty stale without the water cycle, which we'll get into actually in a very short moment about the water cycle. So, like I said, the globe illustration shows blue spheres representing relative amount of Earth's water in comparison to the size of the Earth. Are you surprised that these water spheres look so small? They are only small in relation to the size of the Earth. And the image attempts to show 3 dimensions, so each sphere represents volume. And the volume of the largest sphere, representing all water on, in, and above the Earth, would be about 332,500,000,000 cubic miles, and to be about 860 miles in diameter. The smaller sphere over Kentucky represents Earth's liquid fresh water and groundwater, swamp water, rivers, and lakes. And the volume of this sphere would be about 2,551,000,000 cubic miles and form a sphere about 169.5 miles in diameter. So yes, all of that is fresh water, which we all need every day, but much of it is deep in the ground and unavailable to humans. So, do you notice the tiny bubble over Atlanta, Georgia? That one represents fresh water in all the lakes and rivers on the planet. Most of the water people and life on Earth need every day comes from these surface water sources. The volume of this sphere is about 22,339,000 cubic miles. The diameter of the sphere is about 34.9 miles. Yes, Lake Michigan looks way bigger than the sphere, but you have to try to imagine a bubble almost 35 miles high, whereas the average depth of Lake Michigan is less than 300 feet. The vast majority of water is on the Earth's surface. Over 96% is saline water in the oceans. The freshwater resources, such as water falling from the skies and moving into streams, rivers, lakes, and groundwater, provide people with the water they need every day to live. Water sitting on the surface of the earth is easy to visualize, and your view of the water cycle might be that rainfall fills up the rivers and lakes. But the unseen water below our feet is critically important to life also. So how do you account for the flow in rivers after weeks without rain? In fact, how do you account for the water flowing down a driveway on a day when it didn't rain? The answer is that there is more to our water supply than just surface water. There is also plenty of water beneath our very own feet right this instant. Even though you may only notice water on the Earth's surface, there is much more fresh water stored in the ground than there is in liquid form on the surface. In fact, some of the water you see flowing in rivers comes from seepage of groundwater into riverbeds. Water from precipitation continually seeps into the ground to recharge aquifers, while at the same time, water on the ground continually recharges rivers through seepage. Humans are happy this happens because we make use of both kinds of water. In the United States, in 2010, we used about 275 billion gallons of surface water per day and about 79.3 billion gallons of groundwater per day. We use so much water, y'all. Although surface water is used more to supply drinking water and to irrigate crops, groundwater is vital in that it not only helps to keep rivers and lakes full, it also provides water for people in places where visible water is scarce, such as in desert towns of the western United States. Without groundwater, people would be sand surfing in Palm Springs instead of playing golf. So again, how much water is there on and in the earth? So here are some numbers you guys can think about. If all of Earth's water, that's going to be including oceans, ice caps, glaciers, lakes, rivers, groundwater, and water in the atmosphere, if all of those things was put into a sphere, then the diameter of the water ball would be about 860 miles, a bit more than the distance between Salt Lake City, Utah to Topeka, Kansas. The volume of all water would be about 332.5 million cubic miles, or 1,386 million cubic kilometers. A cubic mile of water equals more than 1.1 trillion gallons. A cubic kilometer of water equals about 264 billion gallons. These are big numbers, y'all, we're talking. About 3,100 cubic miles of water, mostly in the form of water vapor, is in the atmosphere at any time. If it all fell as precipitation at once, the earth would be covered with about 1 inch of water. The 48 contiguous United States receives a total volume of about 4 cubic miles of precipitation each day. And each day, 280 cubic miles of water vapor are transpired into the atmosphere. If all of the world's water was poured on the contiguous of United States, it would cover the land to a depth of about 107 miles. Sheesh, that is deep. Of the fresh water on Earth, much more is stored in the ground than is available in rivers and lakes. More than 2 million cubic miles of fresh water is stored in the earth, most within 1/2 mile of the surface. But if you really want to find fresh water, most is stored in the 7 million cubic miles of water found in glaciers and ice caps, mainly in the polar regions and in Greenland. So there you guys have it. That's how much water there is on planet Earth. It is a lot, right? Like, don't those numbers just make your head hurt, like cubic miles and, everything like that. So I know it doesn't stress me out, but it puts things into perspective for me. It makes me think like, wow, like we're really so tiny compared to just like everything else. So you guys, we're going to come to a very brief break right now. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about Fiji water. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. So for this final segment, we're going to be talking about the controversy that surrounds Fiji water. As most of us know, Fiji water, it's one of those popular brands of bottled water in the U.S., and it's also one of the more expensive ones. It's definitely up there in the top shelf of water categories. Definitely a bougie buy. Okay, it's like $4 a bottle. And if you buy at the airport, don't even tell me. It's going to be $8 for a bottle of Fiji water. Among imported brands, it is the most popular. However, there is a darker side to the consumption of Fiji water. I feel like everything has to have a dark side, right? Like, we can never just fully engage and love a product because there's always some type of downfall. During the production and distribution process, Fiji water leaves a large negative environmental footprint, as well as negative economic consequences for the people of Fiji. In 1995, Fiji Water built a facility to extract the water from underground springs that was entirely run on diesel. In 2008, the Fijian government wanted to raise taxes on Fiji water, which until that point had enjoyed tax-exempt status, and in response, Fiji Water laid off workers. In 2010, the Fijian government tried to raise taxes again, and Fiji shut down its plant for a short period of time. They eventually came to an agreement, but it left a bad impression. As usual, Fiji Water has adopted tactics that demonstrate that Fiji Water does not care about Fiji or Fijians. And this is what the military leader of Fiji, Frank Bainimarama, said. In addition to the less than positive relationship between Fiji Water and the island of Fiji, The company has also cultivated a reputation of lack of follow-through at best and dishonesty at worst in regard to the environmental policy. In 2008, the company announced it would cut its carbon footprint by reducing carbon emissions and plant natural forests, though years later the Fiji Water Company has only planted half the promised forests. Fiji Water advertises their green practices on the company website, but in reality, the carbon negative plan they advertise will not be met until 2037. So we're a long ways to go. As a result, the company shut down a section of their website devoted to tracking their progress in carbon reduction. Also, the company uses a particular square bottle that makes the product stand out from the rest for marketing purposes. And the production of that bottle to make the plastic, transport the bottle to stores, and address the waste is the equivalent of filling up every bottle a quarter of the way with oil. And here's the worst part. Fiji Water works in Fiji to produce this beautifully packaged bottled water shipped all over the world. Meanwhile, 12% of Fiji residents do not have access to clean, safe drinking water, according to the Water Authority of Fiji. While Fiji Water has access to underground springs, the Fijian people have to deal with rusty pipes and an only sometimes functional water system. Access to clean, safe drinking water was defined as a basic human right by the United Nations in 2010. So there you guys have it on, the controversy of Fiji Water. They have a huge negative environmental impact, and 12% of Fiji residents do not have access to clean water, although Fiji Water is produced and distributed from the island of Fiji. Why don't the people of Fiji have access to clean water? Just like the United Nations stated in 2010, having access to clean, safe drinking water it is a basic human right. So here's the real reason why most of us, we should stop buying bottled water. Bottled water is a convenience most people are guilty of taking advantage of, and there's a chance yours is one of those families that always keeps a case on hand. They're great for taking on the go, perfect for parties, and get rid of the need to wash a glass. This is one convenience you should absolutely stop taking advantage of, though, as it's got some far-reaching consequences ranging from environmental to financial. The bad definitely outweighs the good on this one. You might not even be getting everything you think you're paying for when you buy bottled water. So we're going to take a look at just why, you should take this one off your shopping list and stick to what you've got running out of your tap. So you've probably heard bottled water is incredibly wasteful, and most people think this refers to the bottles themselves. But have you ever asked yourself about the water use? When you pick up a liter of bottled water at the store, how much water do you think went into making it? It's more than you think. According to the International Bottled Water Association and a 2013 survey that looked at the water use of the bottled water industry, it takes an average of 1.39 liters to make a single liter of bottled water. That extra 0.39 liters might not sound like a whole lot, but it adds up fast. Given that the entire market study included data from the manufacturer of 14.5 million liters, that's 5.66 million liters of wasted water used in final production. The IBWA points out their total water usage is less than other parts of the beverage industry. But two wrongs don't make a right, and some environmental groups aren't convinced the numbers are anywhere near acceptable. Ertug Ersin, spokesperson for the Water Footprint Network, says the industry's impact is even farther reaching than that. He says when you include the water that goes into making the packaging materials and bottles, you're looking at more like 7 or 8 times that number. Here's another reason why we need to stop buying bottled water. The cost. Spending $1 on a bottle of water might not seem like a huge investment, and chances are good you already know you're paying for the convenience. Maybe you forgot your own water bottle at home, or you headed out on an unplanned hike through the park. But what happens when you start really looking at the numbers? When the coverage group started comparing the cost of bottled water to tap water, they looked at averages across the country. They found people were spending around 300 times more on bottled water than they would have spent on the same amount of tap water. Oh, and that was based on the price of buying water by the gallon. So how often do you buy bottled water by the gallon? When they looked at 16.9 ounce bottles, the math says you're paying around $7.50 for a gallon. Compare that to the price of gas. Then consider this. That's almost 2,000 times the price of the same amount of water that came out of your tap. It might be more cost effective to drive home and pick up a reusable water bottle to fill yourself. So you guys, that's going to wrap up today's episode here at the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff, because that tremendously helps the show. And I'll catch you guys here next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.